Hello, my name is Evan DiDio. I am 16 years of age and a member at large of the 4-H Leadership Stanley Program in the South Central District. The title of today's speech is an interesting one: Your Brain and My Guitar. Now, before we begin, I'd like to ask you an even more interesting question. Is it possible that my guitar can make you feel better, improve your physical health, and increase your income? I think that all of you are interested now. Before we answer that question, let's talk a little bit about the history of music and its effects throughout history. Although scientists are just beginning to discover the true power of music, its effects have been known throughout history, as I said a moment ago. Through the ages, revolutions have been heralded by the music of their day, music that inspired them to dream bigger. And these seemingly insignificant notes have not only birthed nations, but they've changed the lives of individuals. And this is one of my favorite parts because people diagnosed with PTSD, Parkinson's disease, depression, dementia, and more have found help in this invisible drug. But how is this? According to clearviewhealth.com, out of 20 psychiatric sessions, the ones that used music as an aid had a 23% better response rate than standard care. And after 6 months of this program, the music therapy recipients had a much lower depression score. Now, how is this possible? How can my guitar and me playing my guitar make you feel better, improve your physical health, and even increase your income? Let's take it back a few centuries and see how music has changed this amazing and free country that we live in today. Well, the year was 1814, and a man by the name of Francis Scott Key had a first-hand experience with the defense of Fort McHenry. I think that you know where I'm going with this now. He wrote a poem based on his experience, and it became one of the most iconic poems of our nation. It was later turned into a song and dubbed our national anthem in the 1930s. Every time I hear this melody, it reminds me of the men and women who have fought for me. They've died for my liberty. No matter where you are, no matter how old you are, no matter how rich or poor you are, whenever you hear that melody, it reminds you of the men and women who have fought and died for your freedom, for your rights. That is power. That's the power of music. But it's not the only power that music has. As Kent McClard, founder of Ebullition Records, said, music is a tool in the hands of the artist, or the terrorist, or the revolutionary. And this is according to page 13 of The Power of Music by Dr. Michael L. Brown. There's an example for this. In the early 1900s, the communist Soviet Union adopted a song written by a French transport worker, and this song exalted humanism and the triviality of government. Everyone was really excited at the time about this form of freedom, but the morality that ensued was nothing to be enthused about, according to page 51 of The Power of Music by Dr. Michael L. Brown. But how is this possible? We've seen the effects of music, the good effects. We've seen the good effects, and we've seen the bad effects. We've seen its inspirational effects, how it can inspire young men and women to go out and fight for their country and their loved ones. We've seen the destructive capabilities of music and how it can aid in taking over nations. So we know that it's got a grand scale, its power has a grand way of doing things, but can it impact you individually? Well, let me take a look at a few vlogs here. According to the Healthline.com, they wrote a blog and said a 2013 study in the Journal of Positive Psychology found that people who listened to upbeat music could improve their moods and boost their happiness in just 2 weeks. In a press release, lead study author Una Ferguson noted that happiness has been linked to better physical health and, wait for it, higher income. This is amazing. My guitar can make you feel better. It's been linked to all of these good benefits. Now, although this is a fairly new study, music therapy in general began around the 1940s with a really grand start. At the end of World War II, many soldiers were coming back home with many medical needs. They needed a lot of help, and many of them were hospitalized, and even more of them dealt with PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, the scientists and doctors were trying to wrap their heads around how they could fix this. How could they make them feel better? How could they get them through this tough time? And as they were trying to wrap their heads around this, musicians saw that all these soldiers were in the hospitals and they were very lonely and very isolated. So the musicians went in and began to play for the soldiers. The doctors and scientists noted an increase in overall morale and better physical health improvements. That's just one of the many examples of how all of this can happen. And that is according to a blog entitled How Music Therapy Can Relieve Depression. According to harmonymusictherapy.com, students who use educational services, music as a part of their educational services, had a 23% higher achievement rate than those who do not. 23% higher achievement rate. That's crazy. Now, when I think about the power of me playing a G chord on my guitar, it amazes me. Now, let's take it up a few years. Let's get a little more current. At the time of recording this video, there's a global pandemic going on entitled COVID-19, and it's put a halt on pretty much everything. Now, at the beginning of this pandemic, Italy, in particular, was hit pretty hard. They had many cases, and many perished because of this virus. Everyone was forced to stay home, and it made everyone pretty depressed, sad. It put a damper on everyone's moods, until one day, when a musician stepped out on their terrace and began to play. All the neighbors began to come outside onto their terraces too, because everyone lived in apartments. They began to come outside and began to sing with them and play with them, and it really got started when an elderly lady began to dance to the music. Everyone began to laugh and smile and have fun, and quickly someone pulled out their phone and began to live stream the event, and the trend began to spread. This is just one of the many examples of how people are using music to change the people's lives around them. I would like to start using music to change people's lives around me for the better. Now, music has power, whether we believe it or not. It has power to change nations, individuals, and to spark joy in the midst of a pandemic. It's really more than a feeling. But I find joy in knowing that I can make your day better with just your brain and my guitar. Thank you very much.